name is Catherine Galton. I'm CEO for HEROC. The purpose of documentation from my perspective, I think I find it to be interesting because I was a nurse and a lawyer, and so it comes from different pieces. Having said that, the overwhelming importance and the purpose of recording healthcare information and documenting is to ensure that what has happened to the patient while you've cared for them is clear to the next person coming. So that piece around communication of what is necessary, the piece around ensuring that you've got good information that you might use for other purposes, for example, for quality review of the care overall. And of course, it's very important from a legal perspective that you have great documentation. I think what I'd want people to remember is that if you've documented well from a care perspective, you've documented well enough that the person following you, your colleague, understands what has happened to the patient and what is important for their care, then you've done it well enough for legal as well. And so to not worry about that is the primary purpose. My number one piece of advice in relation to documentation is to make sure you're telling the patient's story. And I don't mean a long story. I mean, think about the things that if you met your colleague in the hallway and you really wanted them to be able to care for the patient well, what would you say to them? And think about documenting those things. So it's clear you've addressed what's happening with the patient and you've documented what did happen and what you did to address it. I remember from my younger years having occasions where it was very clear to me that I wanted to document so thoroughly that I wrote long stories that frankly no one had the time to read on the next shift. So to really keep in your mind what's important, what's about care, and how can you document succinctly while at the same time communicating what has happened to the patient and what you've done to address it. A particular story that I've used in teaching actually is a case out of Cape Breton, quite old now, where unfortunately at the end of a 12-hour shift a child had died. And there was a coroner's review into the matter, but what was profound was the nurse's record for that whole 12-hour period was on an 8.5 by 11 sheet. What was profound to me was that you could read that 8.5 by 11 page and understand exactly what was happening to the patient, what symptoms he was showing, and what had been done to address those symptoms. It just really stuck with me. HEROC's documentation guide, I'll say I've been a year at HEROC and I think still about what I could have used when I was working in quality of healthcare in Nova Scotia. And the documentation guide was the tool that I tried desperately to find time to do and didn't get to. It is comprehensive. You can use it easily. You can take sections of it and really apply it to your practice and understand why you're doing it. I've recommended it now to all my former colleagues, of course, because it was what I was so desperately seeking when I was trying to give advice in our sector.